I accidentally drizzled Jello juice on my titties, but we're gonna get unbothered anyway. Take your alligator.
Everything bothers him.
All the comics can go ahead and leave now.
He's unbothered.
Take your alligator.
He calls it unbothered, but
Angie, bye.
that's what's cute
I just got a huge casting call.
because everything bothers him. He's bothered. I'm a botherina.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Unbothered by Ty Rivera. That's right, it's Unbothered by Ty Rivera. I'm your host, Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. This episode is going to be as short or as long as it needs to be. I just want to tell you guys that life is going absolutely fabulously. I have been working on more stuff in the YouTube space, so Unbothered isn't necessarily going to be an hour anymore because it messes up my analytics. And if you feel like you need an hour of me, just break it up over the week because I'm putting out a lot of shit right now. So understand that it's nothing personal and I'm not ditching my botherinas, but at the same time, there's only so many hours in a week. There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many minutes of my patience. And that's where we're at right now, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I am happy with everything. I am thankful that my love for individuals outweighs my hate for humanity. And that's something I'm thankful for every day. And what I mean by that is people are great. People in groups suck. So, I kind of have been staying away from people for the most part, except for people that feed my energy, people that feed my spirit, which is not to be confused with feeding into my ego, because that's not something I need. I don't understand the need for popularity with a lot of people, especially within the stand-up world. I get if you want to be popular with audiences. I get if you want people to want to see you, like that I get. But there's so many people on the Vegas comedy scene specifically that just want to be liked. And I'm like, did your parents not pick you up enough as a baby? Because to me, I don't think of things in those terms. But then also, I guess I was kind of fortunate in that I've been popular pretty much most of my life. And some people would be like, that's so high school. Those are the people that have never been popular. The people that always talk about how popularity is so high school. No. If you've just got a good personality and people just like to be around you, you'll be popular. So I don't worry about that stuff as much as I know a lot of people do. And I know a lot of people are caught up in drugs. You know, there is a fair amount of coke on the Vegas scene, and that's not a secret. And I have no problem with that. I personally stay away from all that stuff. It's just not good for my mental. It's not good for my physical. I'm just not down with coke. Also, with the whole thing that happened with fentanyl, in case you guys didn't know or didn't watch that episode, Fuquan Johnson was one of my actual friends, and he's one of the people that died from the fentanyl laced coke that was on TMZ and everywhere else. Kate Quigley also is a friend of mine, and I know some people have real problems with Kate over the Fu situation and the fact that Fu died. But I'm going to tell you guys, as a friend of Fu for many years, I don't look at life in those terms. I think that two adults decided to do cocaine together. It's not like Kate, from my understanding, went out of her way to give them fentanyl laced coke. If she did, she's really stupid because she took it herself and ended up like suffering major consequences personally. So I don't look at things in those ways where people are like, to me, it's just stupid because any one of us could end up getting messed up in some way by any one of the choices that we make as adults when it comes to those kinds of things. I did drugs when I was younger. I did a lot of drugs. I put a lot of drugs up my nose. I smoked a lot of drugs. And for me, I always knew that I was taking a chance with those things. There was one, never mind, let's not talk about that time. But there was a time that I really thought I was going to overdose. And I luckily have a good relationship with my parents. And I told my dad about it. And he was like, just lay down on the couch. And I was at their house. I laid down on the couch and I let it pass. It was a horrible, horrible feeling. I'm sure my dad was monitoring me to a certain degree, but also I live in the kind of family where people are like, well, you shouldn't be doing that shit in the first place. So it is what it is. Just relax on the couch. And if you die, you die. If you live, you live. And so that's the way I feel about those kinds of things. I hope nothing happens to anybody on the biggest comedy scene, because even though I'm not fans of a lot of people, because that's what people don't get, is it's not that I don't like people. It's just I don't think a lot of people have any value talent-wise. And I'm not in this to just be friends with everybody. Yeah, there are people that I'm friends with. There are people that I genuinely like and love. There are a lot of people that I genuinely like and love. But those people also happen to be talented. And the reason is because, like I said, I'm not here just to make friends or just to be like family with people. I have a family. I have a good family that I have a great relationship with. So why would I be going to these fucking losers and being like, and I don't mean to be an asshole, but that's the way I see a lot of people on the Vegas comedy scene. It's like a bunch of losers that want friends all the time. And it's like, why do you want friends so badly? And why won't you be honest with your friends? Because to me, real friends are honest with each other. And I've said this before, but I don't think that I can make it any more clear, especially when it comes to stand-up comedy. Like, your real friend should tell you, no, your act, a 5-year-old could have written that. And yeah, it gets laughs every once in a while, or some people are mildly amused by it. But it's not really stand-up. It's not really any good. And I always shoot to be better. I'm always doing different stuff. Like, I've mentioned that once in a while I do comedy coaching. And with the comedy coaching, every once in a while somebody will tell me that something seems a little too expensive to them. And I'm like, well, not if you consider all the factors. You're going to go to some shitty comedy coach that doesn't do comedy, not good at comedy, and you're going to pay them what? To tell you what they think you should be doing that they've never done before? Like, even some of the comedy coaches that do stand-up comedy aren't good at stand-up. They're baseline okay. They're good business people. So if you want to learn just the business of stand-up comedy, some of those coaches are great for that. They've done a great job in marketing themselves as stand-up comics when they're not really good at stand-up. So if that's what you're looking for, then have at that. Go pay for that. But if you want this over here, the way that it works is I put a lot of thought into the things that I tell the people that actually pay for my coaching. And when people pay me one time for coaching, I'll fucking follow them around like a goddamn stalker to see what it is they're doing and make sure that they're progressing the way that they should be and giving them pointers and helping them out. And none of this is a pitch for my coaching, because really I don't want to coach that much. And that's part of the reason that it's more expensive than everybody else too, is I don't want my time to be completely taken up by me having to deal with people. Because I know when I deal with people, I do have to respect their money. I do have to respect the fact that they've given me their money. And because I love stand-up so much, I really won't work with anybody that I don't see something in. If I look at your act, if I look at you and I'm like, well, I don't really see shit there, then I'm not going to take your money, because I don't really feel like I can help you out. But if I feel like you at least have a little bit, just a little bit of something that I can work with, then I'll go ahead and work with you if you have the money. But that's just the way it works for me. And like I said, I'm really not trying to advertise it. I don't put it everywhere. I'm talking about you guys to it because you guys are my botherinas. And like I said, this episode might be really short. And so if it's shorter than usual, I at least want to give you guys 100% honesty. You guys too. You guys take time out of your day to watch my podcast. And to me, in a lot of cases, that's more important than actual money. Because for someone to actually take time out of their day, we all are adults. We all have busy days. I know a lot of you have kids, pets, significant others, careers of your own. So like, for you to take time out of your schedule to actually listen to me, I feel like the least I can do is tell you guys exactly where I'm at and let you guys know why it is you guys watch. Like, you guys do watch to not only get a piece of me and get to hear what it is I'm saying, but I know a fair amount of you watch because I do give a little bit of inspiration as far as if you're maybe the kind of person that people have called difficult or made seem like because you don't just let people treat you like shit, that makes you a bad person. I know that some people do draw strength from me, because a lot of the people that are like me, a lot of the people that are like us, we do get ostracized from society in general because people are like, well, they're mean. No, I'm not mean. I'm just not letting you treat me like shit. And I put down a very clear boundary with you, and that feels mean to you because there's a lot of people that have humored you for a long time. Like, every single person that I've gotten into it with, their friends talk to me and will tell me, yeah, I know what you're saying about so-and-so. He is kind of annoying like that, but we all just put up with him because blah, blah, blah. Or you can interchange the pronouns and it could be a her. Because every single person I've gotten into it with, their friends come to me later and tell me, and sometimes even in the moment come to me and tell me, this is what I don't like about them. This is what they did to me that wasn't necessarily the nicest thing in the world to do. And it's like, well, that's a difference between me and them. is I won't pretend to be nice to you. I'll be the person that I actually am. They'll pretend to be nice to you, and then every once in a while I'll pull some shady shit on you, where I just skip the doing shady shit to you and just give you the real me from the beginning. I don't have anything to be shady to anybody about, because there's nothing anybody on this scene has that I want. And that's just 100% what it is for me. I don't look at anybody and think, oh, I really wish I had what? Like their open mic, their show. I mean, I have an open mic that technically AJ runs for the most part. And like I said, even that, I've been very honest about the fact that I didn't want that in the first place. That turned out to be a blessing in disguise, and I had to take it over because of somebody else's unprofessional behavior. But I don't hold hard feelings towards that person about just being what they are, because some people just aren't mentally or emotionally developed enough to do the things that they have to do to actually be a professional in anything other than a job that they get hired for, where somebody pays them and tells them, this is what you have to do exactly, this is when you have to do it, this is your schedule, this is when your breaks are. I understand that some people thrive under that type of supervision. So I'm not going to down anybody about that, but that doesn't mean you're meant to do what I do or anything that I'm involved with, because most of the people that I deal with have to be self-starters, at least to a certain degree, because otherwise it just won't work out. Like you have to be driven, and you have to be looking to do the best you can possibly do in whatever it is you're doing. And there's certain things that I know I wouldn't be able to give 100% of myself to, and that's why I just don't do them. Recently, I had a booker that's been hitting me up that I've worked with before that I really do like, that wants me to do one of his shows. But in order to do his show and make the kind of money that I want to make off of his show, I really have to promote it. I really personally have to promote it. Like even, hitting people up, direct message, making sure that I'm posting flyers all the time. And right now, with the amount that I'm dedicating to social media and specifically YouTube, I just don't have time to dedicate like that to promoting a show. And so I'm not going to lie to him and say, I'm going to do this and then not do it. And then he ends up either losing money or breaking even, or the venue's not happy because they didn't get good numbers. And then that looks bad on me too, because the people that do show up, because some people will show up anyway, and the people that do show up are like, yeah, it was kind of a empty room and it was a sad situation, and then I have to travel to go do this sad situation. So I just at the time say no. I don't try to commit myself to things that I know that I'm not going to be able to give to at all. And so it's like, I mentioned my friend last week that messed up with my lighting, and we've talked since then, and I was very clear with them about the way I felt about that situation, and they watch my podcast, so they also know how I felt from the podcast, and I'm not going to backtrack. Like anything you hear on the podcast, I will tell you person to person. Like that happened to me with LA Comedy Club. I had said something about them having stale talent, and they did have stale talent at the time. Outside of Butch Bradley, most of their talent was stale. And I've been working with LA Comedy Club for a long time. And I mentioned that on a particular episode. And I don't know if people thought I was going to get in trouble or whatever the fuck, but I don't care. That's the way I felt. That's what it was. And so when I was talking to one of the owners, Matt Chavez specifically, was who I was talking to on the phone a couple weeks later. And that was by his choice because he had to go on vacation. And so he wasn't, up to the minute on what I was doing. And I was like, just so you know, you're going to end up hearing on my podcast, if you listen to it, or if anybody decides to tell you about it, that I think all of the talent there is stale. And he was like, well, who do you think is stale on my, and I was like, all of them. Just look at your lineups. I mean, like, it's people that don't really work in stand-up. And I could name names right now, like who I told him, because I did actually name names. But why would I have mentioned them on this podcast before and told you guys I think they're stale and I think they're nothing? And that's what it is. And it's not just an opinion. It's like they don't really do well in front of audiences. It's just for some reason they got grandfathered in the Las Vegas comedy scene, and they continue to get spots at the smaller rooms. And the funny thing about that is people give them spots on the, local shows, thinking like they're going to be my in to the LA Comedy Club, not realizing that even though I don't deal with the LA Comedy Club currently, I still have more influence than those losers do at LA Comedy Club. So it's like everybody here here's one of the problems here. Everybody here is kissing ass, but they don't know which asses to kiss, which, and I prefer you not kiss my ass because kissing my ass won't get you where you want to go anyway. I'm the kind of person that, like I said, that goes especially for professional recommendation. If I don't think you're shit, I'm not recommending you. And I don't care how nice you are to me or how, oh, Ty, I just think you're great at stand up and blah, blah, blah. Nope, nope, nope. If you're a popular person, and I think you'll bring people out to a particular show, and I know that's the way that show works, then I'll tell the booker that. I'll be like, yeah, they're not necessarily the funniest, and I'm not recommending them in a comedy way, but I will tell you that if you want some people to come out, they're good for getting people to come out. And, there's that great debate in stand-up about bringers, which if you guys aren't familiar with what bringers are, that's shows where people have a minimum that they have to bring. Usually it's a lot of times 5. I've heard of bringers as much as 10. But, you just want to get as many people in there as possible, and then you get stage time. It doesn't matter what your skill level is. It doesn't matter if it's at the Comedy Store and you don't deserve to be performing at the Comedy Store comedically. As long as you can bring in 10 people, they pay their cover and their drink minimum, everybody's happy. And so, there's that debate over whether or not bringers are a necessary evil in some cases, and a lot of people do them and have them. And I performed on bringers. I never had to actually bring anybody because the secret to bringers is if you're talented enough, you don't actually have to bring people. They'll ask you to come on and do their show without any pressure to bring even a single person because they just want you to come in and basically be a ringer. Like you just come in, you kill it at a point in the show where it's either lagging or the night has gone long. And that's where you do pay for it, is that you've just got to take whatever spot they give you. You're at their mercy. But a lot of times those audiences are really hot. And even when they're tired and the show has run long, the only reason they're tired is because they haven't seen anything of real quality. So if you go up and you're a comic like me and you just kill it for them, they're going to love you just the same. And I've even called out before. I know you were brought here by one of your friends and you feel like you're hostage and you paid too much for parking and you paid too much to get in this club and you're paying too much for those shitty ass fucking drinks of yours. But I'm not part of any of it. So you can either laugh or not laugh. It's the same for me because I didn't have to bring a single fucking person. And that's something I've said outright on several of the bringers that I've been asked to perform on just to keep the show rolling. And that alone, that level of honesty, because the audience really does feel that way. They'll really relate to you and just be like, thank God he said it. And then from there, you just kill it. And so, a lot of the stuff I've done lately has really been just to prepare people for what's going to happen, because what's going to happen, even from me being home right now and not being out as much, is that this scene is going to elevate. I've already set things in motion in a particular way, and some people will try to deny that, and some people will act like he thinks so much of himself. I have completely changed the Las Vegas comedy scene. Just little old gay me has completely changed it, and that's what's really pissed a lot of people off, is whether they like me or not, I have completely changed the Las Vegas comedy scene. I've changed the way things work on this scene. So people can act however they want about it, but facts are facts and the truth is the truth. And if you look at the chain of events, because like when I told Matt about his comedy or his comics being stale at the LA Comedy Club, not even a week later, there were complete changes on the way the rosters worked at the LA Comedy Club. And they started putting in people that I said were good, people that I know are good. Me and the LA Comedy Club don't have the best relationship in the world right now because I don't want to be fake with them. I don't want to go down there and I'll say hi to them in a pleasant way because I've known them for a lot of years, and for a lot of years we were very cool. I used to go to all the parties. They would invite me to all the parties. I didn't go to all of them because I don't go to all of anything, but they would invite me to the parties. I was there for Super Bowl and Christmas and all sorts of shit, right? But my thing was, I was cool with them because I thought we were genuinely friends, and I had worked with them for a long time or worked for them for a long time. But then their behavior over the way this whole situation played out with the tricks thing and all that stuff is I really felt like they should have just been yeah, we don't do that at our club, and that's all it should have been. But several times, repeatedly, LA Comedy Club let me down. So as far as us being friends, that completely got wiped because I was like, well, we're not really friends because friends would be more arbitrary, neutral, and honest about what was going on. When I show up to your club just to do a guest set for Butch Bradley, who's one of your headliners and has told you that that's why I was there, and somebody physically attacks me and you treat me like maybe I did something wrong, I don't respect you and I don't consider us to be friends. So I'm not going to go there and pretend that I'm friends with you or pretend that I really like you. I mean, like, I'll go when I feel like it, if I want to watch Friends on a show, and I'll behave like a professional. But the last time I was there, because, if you know anything about LA Comedy Club and the way comedy clubs in general work for comedians, is we don't have to pay to go to comedy clubs usually, unless there's a special event and somebody's really popular and completely sold out. You don't have to pay to go to a comedy show. And even though my relationship with LA Comedy Club hasn't been the best, I still don't have to pay to be there. But last time I went there, I went as an audience member and I paid for my ticket online, and I was there to watch Carlos Anthony's show, and I put my phone in Carlos Anthony's face. We're friends, so it wasn't like I did it in a shitty way. I would never do that with Carlos Anthony, and he wouldn't put up with that. We're actual friends though. Like, I really like Carlos Anthony. But when I say actual friends, like, I like him. I encourage him. He likes me. He encourages me. I love his girl, Jen. She's great. And I always shout her out. And, she has her own YouTube channel and she's got her own thing going. But, like, the people that I'm friends with are like, I'm friends with them, but it's not like I talk to them on the phone all the time, or we're always hanging out and doing extracurricular things. Like, I'm, for the most part, to myself. And that's pretty much with everybody. Like, I went out with AJ for his birthday. We went and got pizza. But I just don't really hang out with a lot of people on my personal time. And so, but yeah, so I put my phone in Carlos Anthony's face and I was like, I'm a paying customer and I don't want to hear shit about shit tonight. And, it was my ticket that I was putting in his face when I showed him my phone. And he was like, you are crazy. And so, yeah, so that's, the way that I see things and the way that I do things. Can me and Matt and Joaquin and LA Comedy Club ever have a relationship again? Sure. Nothing is final in business. That's like a saying that is just, like, people can act like, oh, I'll never talk to them again. But if the price is right and it's just 100% business, I'll go. Will we ever be friends again? We can be friendly. We can be friend-like. But now that I've seen that side of you and how quickly you'll sell me out even when you know that I was in the right, just because as far as those situations go, arbitrarily, I was just in the right. One, comic shouldn't be trying to steal your jokes. And if you call that out, nobody should shame you about that. And two, nobody should attack you in a place of business. Those are two facts. Those aren't things that, and if you want to say, well, it isn't for sure that they had stolen your bits or whatever. Well, one, I kind of proved it. And two, we all know it was. So, like, yeah, that was just me. And maybe you want to harbor somebody, but that's okay too, because I really am the kind of person that I will allow you to get enough rope to hang yourself. And your friends are enabling you to, like, really wreck yourself. That's what it is. Your friends are really enabling you to wreck yourself. Like, if you even think about that situation with Gooch, I've mentioned it before that Gooch attacked me in the LA Comedy Club. But what had happened was, before that, a couple weeks before, he had tried to attack Randall Thompson, who's another comedian on the scene. And before that, he had threatened Diaz Mackey, or tried to be threatening with Diaz Mackey. Now, if at either of those 2 points, technically the first one would have been the smartest one to do it on when he tried to do it with Diaz Mackey. If Matt and Joaquin, who are the owners of the LA Comedy Club, who knew that happened, because it wasn't at all a secret. I walked up and there was a big mess going on. And that's when I was getting along with everybody. And I heard that Gooch had tried to fight Randall Thompson. And so right away I was like, well, that's not smart at all. But Gooch wasn't my friend like that. Me and Gooch were friendly, but we weren't friends like that where I would, like, try to tell him what to do with his life. Plus, Gooch is kind of hard-headed, and it'll be his undoing is what'll happen if he doesn't actually bring it around. And that's where I say, like, you just give people enough rope and stand back and let them do what they want to do. And they'll end up exploding on their own. But Matt and Joaquin claim to be actual friends with Gooch. And so if they were really friends with him back when he did that with Diaz, they would have been like, hey, this is a place of business. This isn't your personal clubhouse. We don't need a bulldog here. We don't need anybody to handle security. We have a security person. Drew was a security person. Justin also would help out with security. Everybody else there is pointless in a security way. That's just what it is. They all proved that the night that Gooch had his situation with me. And, that would have helped him head that off, because then he wouldn't have done it with Randall, which when they didn't check him when he did it with Randall, that reinforced to him that, okay, it's okay for me to behave this way in this particular venue. Then he did it with me, and it was a completely different story, because as soon as you put your hands on me, I'm calling the police, because we're in business. This isn't about prison rules. This isn't a schoolyard. This isn't a boxing ring. This is a place of business. So as soon as you put your hands on me, I called the police. Then Gooch wasn't allowed to be at LA Comedy Club for a while because his friends didn't tell him sooner that, hey, that's not the way you behave in a place of business. Same thing with Trix. Trix will keep going and doing the kind of stuff he's doing because instead of people just politely telling him behind the scenes, which is where I wanted it all handled, if you remember the way that story went down, I didn't want to make that a big public thing. I only went public with it because they were choosing not to do anything about it and they wanted to just sweep it under the rug. So I made an episode about it, which ended up getting 3,000 views, 3,000 and climbing still. There's still people watching that video. And so now not only has he been called out publicly, but there's also the fact that because his friends, Matt and Joaquin, again, didn't just tell him politely behind the scenes and before it ever got public, hey, this isn't the way you conduct yourself. You do your own jokes. The other comics do their own jokes. That's just a rule of comedy. And outside of that, we stay out of it. If they had just told him that much and been that honest with him as friends, then he wouldn't go on to wreck himself like he's going to do in the future. Because people like that, when nobody ever is a nice enough friend or a good enough friend to tell them the way that the world works and the way that they're going to wreck themselves, they will go on to do what they're doing, and then they get more comfortable about it, and then they get more sloppy about it, and then eventually that's how it ends up being their undoing. And these are all things you can just see happen for yourselves, like I said, with Gooch, it already happened with that particular situation. That really wrecked everything that he thought he had going, and he didn't have much going to begin with in the comedy way. And when I talk about people's comedy, like I said, I know some people get in their feelings and they think I'm talking about them like on a personal level, but I'm really not. It's just I'm not good at basketball. So if I were to get out on the court and just start dribbling and doing whatever you do, that's how not good at basketball I am, is I don't even know a lot of the stuff you would do, but I'm not good at basketball. So if I were to just get out there on the court and just start, doing my Harlem Globetrotters, I don't even know that that's the Harlem Globetrotters. I just know I like that little jingle that they have. But anyway, and just trying to hoop it up. Then somebody that actually is good at basketball were to be like, yeah, Ty's not good at basketball. I wouldn't be like, I'm attacked. How would you say I'm not good? I'm not good at basketball is what it is. It's just a matter of fact. Same with a lot of these people in stand-up. They're not good at it. That's just what it is. So I know a lot of people got in their feelings over that because they have a lot of ego about stand-up. And that's where the problem comes in. And that's what I don't fall into myself. Because you can accuse me of doing a lot of things. But when it comes to actual stand-up, I'm always hypercritical of myself in the most productive ways. Like, I know that I'm talented. I've said that a million times on this podcast and a million more in real life, if not 2 or 3 million. But it is what it is. It's just you got to be honest with yourself when you're being honest with yourself all the way around. So I am very talented. I am very naturally gifted when it comes to stand-up comedy. That's why I'm so good at crowd work, is because that's making stand-up in the moment. And so since I know that, I don't get into the thinking that, oh, I'm just good at this and it's just because it's just natural and God-given. Yeah, there is the God-given part. There is the part that was just ingrained in me, probably from watching stand-up a lot when I was a kid. You know, I picked up timing, and that's when you're absorbing the most. And like I told you guys, I was a weird kid, so I watched stand-up a lot more than any kid should. And my parents were weird parents, so they let me watch stand-up as much as I wanted to and didn't put any limitations on what I could watch as far as how dirty it was. And it was the golden era of comedy. It was when Andrew Dice Clay was really doing his thing. Thea Vidal was in full swing. Who else? Rodney Dangerfield was killing it. Bill Hicks, who I wasn't really a big fan of, I'm not a big fan of now, and I don't care how anybody feels about that. Whatever. It was just a man talking. But you know, I guess I don't know. I just don't like what he did, and that's just what it is, you know. And I'm allowed to not like things. But anyway, so there is that, but then I also, and I've told other comics this before too, like every set afterwards, I can tell you where I stuttered, I can tell you where I misspoke, I tell you which lines I flubbed, I can tell you everything that I did wrong, where my timing was off on this particular joke, where I sounded a bit hateful and like I actually meant something I was saying on that one instead of just giving it with actual feeling, but at the same time letting the audience in on the joke and know there was a joke. And sometimes I just give the audience too much credit and think they're going to be smarter than they are, and I think I can just say something and then they're just going to get it, and instead they get offended or whatever, but I always recover because I know what I'm doing and I know what to do if I end up in one of those mayday situations. But I, you know, am very honest with myself about all of that stuff and very self-critical, like I said, in the most productive ways, because at the end of it all, I will give myself an overall score in my head, and it's not like an actual where I'm like, you know, that was a 10 out of 10. But sometimes it is. But I do give myself an overall, like, yeah, you were great. You did really well. You did better than really well, especially considering all the factors, because that's the other thing. I still work under all circumstances because I think that's a part of being a good comic, is just being able to say, yes, you set up a fucking mic, you set up a fucking sound system, and I will show up and do what I'm supposed to do. I don't care where it is. I don't care if it's a parking lot for drive-in comedy, which we could talk about that sometime too. But I don't care where it is. You set it up and I will do it. If the audience is shitty, I'll still work with that. I'll still work through that. There's certain places I go that are particularly rough where you don't go there to kill it. You know, like Dive Bar I talked about before, which coincidentally Randall Thompson runs that. And so, you know, I will still go anywhere and do anything because I think that's a part of what stand-up is. And so, you know, I'm always working hard. So while it might seem like I have a lot of opinions, it's because I have a right to have a lot of opinions because I'm actually good at what I do and I actually do put in the work. So while everybody can talk about Ty's this, Ty's that, Ty isn't worried about anybody at all right now. And some people will watch this podcast and be like, wow, he really talks shit about a lot of people. No, I told the truth about a couple of people, and it sounded like me talking a lot of shit because a lot of you aren't used to hearing the truth, and a lot of you live under fear of consequences. And I personally am not going for the things you're going for, and I've already reached the highest with the people that I talk shit about. You know, as far as Matt and Joaquin, any one of them tell you that I was getting paid well, because see, now I'm saying too much. But anyway, you know, the thing was there's different levels of what people are getting paid there. And I was one of the comics that got paid on the top scale. So when it comes to that, it's like, what else do I need? I mean, like, technically, the last time I did LA Comedy Club, and here's a little thing for you, just so you know the level of bitch you're dealing with right now. It's not just about talking shit. The last time I did LA Comedy Club, when I was given my money, it was given to me by the manager at the time. Michael Robertson was his name. And Mike Robertson was instructed to tell me to look at my money or look at the check first, you know, when he gave it to me. And so I looked at the check and it was for more than it was supposed to be. And Matt had wanted me to know that he had given me extra money for dealing with the difficult crowds that I had dealt with throughout that week, because he had been there on a couple of nights where another comic might have gotten away from them. But not only did I do what I was supposed to do, I excelled in those situations. I made them, and I have the audio if I ever want to post some of it, but I was killing it with these tough audiences. So You know, I talk shit because I talk shit because it's the truth, and it's not talking shit. Like I said, it's just telling the truth, and you guys aren't used to telling the truth or hearing it. So maybe get better friends. Stay unbothered.